Is happening, my fellow conspirator? It is I, your boy, Matty Milligan, and this is the Underground Marketing Conspiracy. Whoa! Today, we are talking about the power of email marketing, and specifically relationship marketing when it comes to emails. When I speak with business owners every day, they usually tell me two things about their email marketing. It's either they're not sending emails whatsoever to their list and they have no follow-up strategy whatsoever in place, or they tell me that they're basically just spamming their list like crazy, like emailing them every day, if not multiple times per day, automatically with a couple of different autoresponder offers that are just being sent to their customer list. This is what I call burning and churning because you're rarely going to get a response out of your list when you're just spamming them with all sorts of offers. Sure, you might get the person who's going to buy anything you put in front of them because they have the money and they have a fondness for your brand that they don't have with other things. But one thing I saw earlier this year was I went to Funnel Hacking Live in this past January, and one of the speeches was by Yada Golden, and her whole speech was about how she writes emails and how she really shows up and how she revives lists and basically shows the power of how she does email marketing. And she broke it down into four different kinds of emails that people are sending, very similar again to the way relationships work, specifically with, I would say, guys who try to approach women. And I find that between marketing and a lot of this like kind of relationship stuff, there are a lot of similarities and even some self-help concepts, I guess, that fall in between each other. But I think that, again, like even Peter Tarr was talking about yesterday, those relationships are super important, right? So let's think about the first kind of person. So the first marketer is really kind of like the pickup artist, right? Like the PUA who just goes out and burns and churns through their list. And basically they don't have any sort of long-term strategy in place, right? They're not very sincere. It sounds very rehearsed. And it's basically just like booty call marketing. So there's very little repeat business. They just go for that one quick sale and they have that hit it and quit it mentality and then they're gone forever, right? Then there's the player. So the player says all the right things, like they come on strong, and maybe you do buy a couple of awesome things from them. And they're also kind of in that hit it and quit it mentality, right? Like you'll probably buy more stuff than the player emails than you would from those pickup artist emails you receive. The third kind is the nice guy. So the nice guy is super friendly, right? So he's just not sure. I guess he's built some connection with his audience, but he just doesn't really know what to do next in terms of how to communicate. So he'll never really make that move to actually sell you something. Like they'll provide a lot of value, but they just don't know how to do that ask, right? It's like Gary Vaynerchuk always says with his marketing. It's like jab, 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 right hook. It's like provide value, provide value, provide value, then have that ask where you ask for the sale or you ask them to go and get something or take a specific action. It's like the nice guy is like friend zone marketing basically. And then the last one is relationship marketing. So relationship marketing is just someone who's really thinking long term from the very get-go, right? It's like, okay, how can I keep this person as a customer and make them happy and stay with me as opposed to going to all the other marketers out there? How can I basically get them to stay with me as long as possible? So they show up, they provide inspiration, motivation, tons of value, lots of awesome content, how-tos, tips. They answer your questions, they make thoughtful recommendations, they make sure they're coaching you, they're holding you accountable throughout the whole thing, and they do challenge you in some cases and really just what you're believing to make sure that you're actually in the right direction, right? Because they want to grow with you. It's from what I've seen. So when I'm writing emails, this is really what I'm doing. I mean, I've taken Yada Golden's like subscriber reviver challenge, which is why I know all this stuff. And she gives you an awesome template, which I recommend checking out. And she's someone that I would totally, totally love to get on this podcast, which I'm in the process of trying to do. Just trying to do a little networking, but I also want to make sure that I'm providing value for her at the same time. So that's kind of the strategy that she works. And there's a whole structure that she teaches, which is really awesome. But this is something that you really need to really rethink with your marketing. Like when you're sending those emails, like what's the intent behind this email? Like, do you have some sort of short-term strategy where it's like, oh, let's just make some sales today? But it's like, should I think of that person where maybe 30 days from now, when they're actually ready, maybe then they'll buy? A lot of marketers, like if you're like me, you're probably subscribed to all sorts of different lists and you're getting emails all the time. You're just getting constantly bombarded by stuff. And in a lot of cases, there's not just much value, especially when you just see what the subject is about. So I think making sure your subject lines, not just the body copy, having your lines look really good. And again, having those automatic responses set up. And when you have those automatic responses set up for your soap opera sequence emails, where it's that automatic follow-up where someone doesn't know you, they opt in, and you just send them those messages. I think the classic is 5 emails, but in some cases it's probably best to have a long series of emails. There's one list that I downloaded where I downloaded something from them, and they sent me 30 different emails, and basically it just builds a relationship with them and they tell you their entire backstory. It's basically just like reading a book for 30 days, but you get to know them and the writing is very enticing too. Like each email leads perfectly, so it has continuity and there's a storyline behind everything, and you just really understand the background more with those people. And for me, as someone on their copywriting journey, just really testing my own skills and looking for other people and what they're doing has really helped me just improve a lot of my my own copywriting skills. And one thing I think I talked about recently as well was just sending text messages. So even getting those skills where you're sending the right text messages to people, and even that new feature in Facebook, I think they have messenger blasts now where you can broadcast to a certain amount of people by just sending a broadcast to people's Facebook Messenger. Sending those messages are different, right? Like they're different mediums of communication. Your email copy can be a lot longer because some people will, if it's a good email and there's a good lead to it and a good subject line, then when they click on that, they're going to read through the whole thing. And in some cases, you want to get them to ask a question at the back, because that way they're replying to you, and that way, again, you know their thoughts. That helps you come up with content for the future, but it also engages them. What it also does is, this is kind of a hack, where when people reply to your emails, what they're telling their service provider, so let's say they're with Hotmail or Outlook and Gmail or Yahoo, or even maybe one of those local ones. Like I'm in Canada, so maybe they have like a Bell Simpatico email or they have a Rogers email address. So when you send them an email and they reply to that, what they're telling Gmail is, oh, this person's my friend. Like I reply to those emails. So when you send them those future emails, it's more likely to actually get inbox versus those other ones. And depending on who you use as, I guess I don't know why I'm going into this, but your SMTP, which is some nerdy terms for basically just the different postman that delivers your message to the customer online. Depending on which SMTP and which service provider it is, you need to track your metrics and see your open rates, and then really figure out like why the open rates aren't as high. Because there'll be some months where you blast your list and the open rates are a little bit lower, and you're like, okay, what's really happening? Like, was there a specific one? Because in some cases, if you get a lot of opt-outs from a specific one, like Gmail or Yahoo or Outlook, that's going to tell the SMTP, they're going to basically relay that information to the SMTP provider that you're potentially a spammer, and they're basically going, turn you from off of their person's whitelist to their blacklist, where they're not going to receive your emails and come at all, or they're just going to automatically end up in their spam folder, which sucks because the idea is to get the inbox, right? One thing I like to do too is when I send out that first email in the soap opera sequence, it's like, hey, can you just reply and let me know you got this? Like just put reply or give me your favorite emoji or something. And some people will reply. And then that way, again, you're getting whitelisted right off the bat. And then that way, when every other email you send to them in the future. And this is important too for permission-based marketing. I've heard a lot of people and I've had this happen time and time again, where you go in on comment on something on some Facebook group and then someone just direct messages you and you're just like, all right, dude, like, and it's with this like long message too. I don't have time to read that. Like, honestly, if it's like, hey bro, what's up? Like, how's business? I might reply and be like, oh, cool. Like this guy actually cares. Like, it's a generic kind of answer that it's not like, hey, I do XYZ service. Like, do you want to buy right now? It's like, all right, just like leave me alone. I've seen people mess with those like spammers too. And in a lot of cases, like, yeah, they just don't know the relationships. Even when I was talking with Peter Tarr yesterday, I think it was before or after, when he's like, oh yeah, because I interviewed him because I asked this, he asked like, he's like, hey, I'm a 2 Comma Club winner, like who, let me know if you have any questions. I want to get more involved in this community. And I'm basically just like, hey, can I interview you? And it's the same thing where he's like, cool, just like DM me. So first thing, I'm like, all right, send friend request, and then quick message being like, hey, let me know what time you want to, hop on my podcast. And he answered pretty quickly, and then we set everything up, and I did all the work, like, so it made it super simple for him, which is what I like. I think that's the best strategy with just getting more and more podcast guests as it is. But, and again, with me, like, I didn't ask him for anything. Like, I'm super happy that he was just on the podcast and able to provide a lot of value and shared a lot of insights. Like, I like the idea that he talked about isolating and scaling. I found that was super different from anything that I'd heard previously. And if you haven't listened to that episode, I'd go back and listen to that right after this one, or even right now if you want, and maybe even other episodes if you did enjoy this. Just consider that. But I think the way the medium as well, like I was really trying to talk about before, the communication medium is different. Emails are longer, like text messages and those messages on Facebook Messenger and even WhatsApp, those are a lot shorter. Like those need to be just quick and precise ones. Sometimes, because there's these tools like, I know there's ManyChat, but there's another one called Chatfuel, I think, where again, it's a Facebook Messenger bot where it just automatically messages you from right off the get-go. And you can create the same email sequences in Messenger. In some cases, like, you might even just want to get one tactic I think someone talked about last year was they'll get someone to opt in on Messenger, and then from Messenger just be like, hey, do you still want this? Like, give me your email address. So that way you have two different lists at the same time. And again, I've talked about this before. This is all traffic you own, right? Your email list is traffic you own, and you need to build a relationship with your list and really get them to start trusting you more and more. And how do you do that? You provide them with value, right? By giving them content. It's like, and then eventually, after a while, it's like, hey, you know what? Like, now do you want to go steady? Like, that's how you do it, right? It's like, what's this dude? There was some zoologist, I don't remember, and he talked about the 12 different levels of intimacy. I believe I've talked about this in the past, but it's like, I think the first level is like eye to body, or it might be eye to eye, but you go through the different levels, right? Where it's like eye to eye, or eye to body, eye to eye, and then I think like, what is it? It's like hand to shoulder, like hand to, what is it? Hand to shoulder, hand to lower back, and then I think at some point it was like mouth to cheek, mouth to mouth, something like that. I don't know. I'm completely butchering this, but you get the idea, right? There's different levels of intimacy, right? You don't just walk up to someone and kiss them. Like it's not socially appropriate, and it feels weird. Like I tell people a lot too, like look at the way you're being marketed to, and if it ever makes you feel icky, then don't do that. And that's the way I am. Like whenever people do that messenger stuff, I'm like, oh, this makes me feel weird. And whenever people are like creeping on me, I'm like, oh, like, yeah, it's kind of weird. It makes it, like, I totally understand after researching marketing, like I was talking about before, where there's a lot of similarities between the dating world and marketing. Oh, I completely forgot my train of thought there as to what I was saying. But there's a lot of similarities basically just between those two. So you need to, again, like build that relationship with that person and build that trust, like build that bond. And then after a while, then, ask them to go on a date with you. Like, I'm sure some dudes are super smooth, like the player, where they can get that quick sale, maybe even a few quick sales. But it's like, have that long-term vision in mind. And again, when you build that trust, that's really building your brand, building that loyalty. And again, that allows the person to stay with you longer, but that allows you to also charge a lot more than all the other people that actually exist in the marketplace. So I hope you got a lot of value from today's video. And yeah, I would totally go back and watch yesterday's episode from Peter Tarr. I found it super helpful, and there's been many other people from the community that have reached out to me since that podcast and asked to be guests, as well as just talk to me about referring other people they know in the community, where they would try and push for them and advocate to get them on the show, which is pretty exciting at this point. I have a few guests coming up as well, which I'm pretty stoked about as well. And if you do like these videos, because I've actually looked at the stats recently, and I've noticed that only 10% of the people who listen to my podcast on a consistent basis are actually subscribed to them, whether it's subscribed on Spotify, whether it's subscribed on iTunes, whether it's subscribed on Google Play, iHeartRadio, whatever it may be, Weezer, Deezer, Our Lady Peace, wherever you are subscribed, consider, or wherever you are listening to, consider subscribing to this podcast. That way you'll be notified when your next favorite episode of the Underground Marketing Conspiracy drops. And that is all for today in this episode. And I will see you next time, as always, on the Underground Marketing Conspiracy. Woo!